Hey guys, what's up here? Murphy's Opinions, and today I'm coming at you with another James Bond review here. And today I'm coming at you with Sean Connery's fourth film as James Bond, Thunderball, which was made in 1965 and directed by Terence Young. So before I get into my thoughts on the film, let's just quickly go over what the plot of the film is. So basically, Spectre hatches a plot, um, basically when they hijack a British Vulcan bomber armed with two atomic bombs, and they basically hold it up for ransom. Basically, the British send James Bond to try and recover the warheads before Spectre carries out the threat, and before they detonate the devices across the UK and US mainlands. So, in theory, that sounds like quite a very good Bond film. You know, it sounds like from that kind of quick, summary, it sounds like it could be quite a fun adventure. Bond trying to capture these hijacked atomic bombs. It could be a really fun film, but ultimately, I find the film falls really flat, and it's, in my opinion, one of the worst in the series. And I'll get into this and explain as we go through the cast and just stuff that I don't really like about the film and stuff that I do like about the film, because there is some stuff you do like about this film. You've got Sean Connery as James Bond. Sean Connery, I think, delivers another good performance here. A lot of people say he's not that good in this film. I think he's still great. It's probably his weakest performance so far as James Bond, but it was still very good. I mean, he would have much weaker performances in the next couple of films that he would star in as Bond. But this was still very good, I think. I think Connery's great here, and one of the few redeeming qualities of this film. You've got Claudine Auger, I believe. I'm sorry if I pronounce some of these names wrong, because a lot of these have foreign names which I probably can't pronounce. So if I get any of these wrong, I apologise. Just correct me in the comment section. Anyway, she plays Domino. Again, she's just a very forgettable Bond girl. She just doesn't really do much, really. I mean, she does kind of tie to the plot, which is nice, but she's just, in my opinion, one of the most boring Bond women in the entire series. Just not much to her, really. And you'll notice a pattern in here for a lot of women in this film. But actually, there is one woman in this film who I think is probably, again, another redeeming quality. Fiona Volpe, played by Luciana Paluzzi. And she's actually great. She's one of the few women in Bond who's actually not turned to his side by sleeping with him, which I actually think is quite nice. Such a contrast to Goldfinger, which we have obviously with Pussy Galore, where she actually turned to the good side. She's awesome, her Fiona Volpe. She's tough. She's attractive. She's just got everything going for her. I think she's definitely one of the best Bond henchmen / women in the entire series. I think she's really, really awesome, and her death scene actually is really a lot of tension is built up in that scene. Actually, I'd say that's probably my favourite scene in Thunderball. Actually, just a great scene, really, and I think she does a great job here. And then you've got Emilia Largo, played by Adolfo Celi. Again, I just find Largo really boring. I think if he didn't have the eye patch, he would be just forgotten. I think he's just one of those villains where, there are times where he does come across quite sinister, especially towards the end, but you just don't get this. You don't get this idea that he's actually, I just don't buy that he's, one of the top people in Spectre. Especially if you look at someone like Blofeld, who is just genuinely evil. Largo to me does not seem like someone who should be, or is at near the top of the Spectre totem pole. But apparently he is. But I just don't really see it. And I think Largo's ultimately pretty boring. And that I would have liked to have known also how he got the eye patch, but that is never actually addressed, which I think is kind of annoying, really. I would have liked to have maybe had some sort of backstory as to how he got it, but I think Largo just really falls flat, and it's kind of a shame because the theme song to the film Thunderball by Tom Jones, the song is clearly about Largo, and it really built him up as this awesome villain. Then when you actually see the film, he's just not that good. He's just not that good. It's not that he's acted badly, but it's just the character isn't given much to do, really, and he's just not interesting at all. You've got Molly Peters playing Patricia Faring, and Paula, played by Martin Bezic. And again, these two characters are so forgettable. They're just... I find a lot of the women, apart from Fiona Volpe in this film, just to be incredibly boring, and they don't give them much character apart from they're attractive, and Bond has to work alongside them, and that's it. There's literally no interest, and I don't have any real interest in these characters, and they don't do anything. So they're really just wasted, in my opinion. There's no point of them, really. I mean, obviously you've got the MI6 regulars. You've got Bernard Lee as M, who is great in this once again. One thing I do find a bit odd. I mean, Desmond Llewellyn does play Q very well once again. However, I think the scene between Q and Bond, I don't really like it that much. It doesn't seem like it doesn't keep up that continuity of the Bond Q relationship in the sense of like, I mean, Bond would always do stuff to kind of like annoy Q, but he in this film he just kind of acts like a school kid, just purposely trying to be like a dick. Whereas in the other films when he does it, it comes across as more just him like either being like just a kind of as like a just a bit of a joke, but nothing too like serious. But I don't know. I just in this it comes across as him being a bit of a dick, really. But it's nothing on Desmond Llewellyn. It's just the dialogue and the kind of way it was done. I wasn't huge on it. Lois Maxwell's Moneypenny's great once again. I can't really fault her. She doesn't really have that big of a role in this film, but she's pretty good. Again. Rick Van Nutter plays Felix Leiter, and I really don't remember much about this Felix. I find often with a lot of the Felix Leiters, as I said before, a lot of them just aren't that interesting, and they don't really do much in the film, and this is a great example of that. Rick Van Nutter really doesn't do much with this role, and Felix Leiter just resorted to kind of being a boring character, mainly just giving out exposition, really. So anyway, on to the score, which is done by John Barry. This is actually this is a great score. I think at this point, it was one of the most expensive scores of the series so far. In terms of and I will say, a lot of the Bond films, because they're made in the 60s, are often quite poorly edited, which is fine. Like some of it is like it's just unavoidable. But I'm sorry, in Thunderball, so many of the scenes are just so badly edited. And they're just sped up and cut awkwardly. There's more editing like fuck ups and like just cases of poor editing. There's more. This film has the most, in my opinion. There's just so many scenes fall flat. Like the fight scene on the boat between Bond and Largo, that falls really flat just because of the poor editing and the sped up footage. It's just a mess, really. And also the underwater scenes where the fight scenes underwater, they're just terrible. You can't really tell who's who, and because it's just a bunch of random people floating about underwater, you don't really care about it, to be honest. There's nothing really exciting about that fight scene in general, really. I mean, as I said before, the scene with Bond and Fiona Volpe dancing, and then obviously the tempo speeds up and someone tries to kill Bond, but like it ends up killing Fiona. That's a really great scene. There's some great tension there. And again, one thing I find really boring about this film, as I've said, the word that I like to describe this film as is really or just boring, because a lot of what Bond finds out throughout the film is stuff that we already know at the start. So Bond playing catch up with us, I just don't find very exciting. Whereas if we were finding out this stuff along with Bond, I think the film may have actually been a lot more interesting. So as I said, I think just the way the film's structured just isn't that great. So anyway, guys, that's my review of Thunderball. As you can tell, it was definitely one of my least favourites. I know a lot of people will probably give me a lot of shtick because a lot of people really like this film. I personally don't. I think it's one of the weakest in the series. So anyway, the next James Bond film will be You Only Live Twice. Thanks for watching, guys. Subscribe to me if you haven't. Follow me on Twitter, ars.fm. And yeah, once again, just thanks for watching, guys.